Something has been sitting quietly in the background of your life, unnoticed, unspoken, but never truly gone. And now, for reasons you may not fully understand yet, it's beginning to surface. Think about this for a moment. Why is it that certain memories, certain names, certain feelings connected to your grandfather are suddenly coming back into focus? Why now? Why in this phase of your life, when you're already dealing with your own growth, your own questions, your own search for direction? It's not random. There are times in life when the past doesn't stay in the past. It finds a way to reach forward, not to haunt you, but to reveal something you were not ready to understand before. And often, the people connected to that truth are those who played a quiet but powerful role in shaping who you are today. Your grandfather may not have told you everything. In fact, most people from older generations didn't. They carried burdens silently. They made decisions without explaining the full story. They protected, they endured, and sometimes they concealed. But ask yourself this: what if there was something deeper behind his silence? What if there was a part of his life, a truth, a choice, or even a struggle that directly connects to the path you are walking now? Have you ever felt like you're repeating something you don't fully understand? Like you're facing patterns, emotions, or situations that feel older than your own experience? That feeling doesn't come from nowhere. Family histories are not just stories. They are layers of experience, decisions, sacrifices, and sometimes unresolved matters that echo through time. And while no one is bound by the past, understanding it can change everything. Maybe your grandfather went through something that shaped the entire direction of your family. Maybe he made a decision that no one questioned, but everyone lived with. Or maybe there was something left unfinished, something that never found its voice. And now you're starting to feel it, not as a clear memory, but as a subtle pull, a curiosity, a sense that there's more beneath the surface than what you've been told. Why do certain conversations about him feel incomplete? Why do some details seem missing or avoided? Why does it feel like there's a piece of the puzzle that was never handed to you? These are not just coincidences. There comes a point in a person's life when they begin to look beyond what they were given and start asking deeper questions. Not out of rebellion, but out of awareness. Out of a desire to understand where they come from, so they can move forward with clarity instead of confusion. And this is where things begin to shift, because once a hidden truth starts to surface, it doesn't stop halfway. It continues to reveal itself, piece by piece, often through reflection, through conversations, or even through moments of unexpected realization. You might not have all the answers yet. In fact, you probably don't. But the fact that you're beginning to question, that you're beginning to feel this connection, means something is already changing. So take a moment and ask yourself honestly, what do you really know about your grandfather's life beyond the surface? And more importantly, what have you never been told? There's a difference between what is told and what is understood. Most families pass down stories in fragments. A few details here, a memory there, a version of events that feels complete on the surface. But if you look closely, something doesn't fully connect. There are gaps, silences, moments where the story seems to skip over something important. And those gaps are where truth often hides. Think back to the way your grandfather was described. Was he always portrayed in a certain light? Strong, quiet, disciplined, or maybe distant? Unpredictable, even misunderstood? Now ask yourself who created that narrative and what might have been left out, because every person has layers, public actions, private struggles, decisions shaped by pressures no one else fully saw. It's possible that your grandfather lived through circumstances that forced him to make choices he never explained, not because he wanted to hide the truth out of dishonesty, but because some truths are complicated. They carry weight. They raise questions that not everyone is ready to answer. But time has a way of loosening what was once tightly held. You may have started noticing small inconsistencies, a story that changes slightly depending on who tells it, a reaction from a family member that feels stronger than expected, a topic that gets quickly redirected whenever it comes up. Why would something so simple need to be avoided? Sometimes it's not about one big secret. It's about a chain of events, a decision that affected relationships, a moment that altered the direction of the family in ways that were never openly discussed. And here's where it becomes personal. Because whatever that hidden truth is, it didn't stay in the past. It shaped the environment you grew up in. It influenced the way people around you think, react, and connect. It may have even shaped parts of your own identity without you realizing it. Have you ever felt like certain expectations were placed on you without explanation? Like you were supposed to carry something, fix something, or become something, but no one clearly told you why. That doesn't happen without a reason. Family dynamics are rarely accidental. They are built over time, often influenced by decisions made long before you were born. And when something is left unresolved, it doesn't just disappear, it transforms. It shows up in subtle ways, in behaviors, in emotional patterns, in the unspoken rules that everyone follows but no one questions. And now, you're beginning to question. That's significant, because not everyone reaches this point. Many people accept what they're told and never look deeper. But when you start noticing patterns, when you start sensing that there's more beneath the surface, it means your awareness is expanding. And awareness changes everything. It doesn't mean you have to judge the past. It doesn't mean you have to assign blame. But it does mean you have the opportunity to understand, to look at your grandfather, not just as the role he played in your life, but as a human being who lived through his own challenges, made his own choices, and carried his own reasons, whether spoken or unspoken. So ask yourself this: if the full story were to come out, would it change the way you see him? Would it change the way you see your family, or even yourself? Because the truth that's beginning to surface isn't just about him. It's about the connection between his past and your present. And once you start seeing that connection clearly, you can't unsee it. At some point, the question stops being, "What happened?" and starts becoming, "What does this mean for me now?" Because once you begin to sense that something deeper exists beneath your grandfather's story, you can't simply return to not knowing. Awareness has a way of changing how you see everything: your family, your past, even your own decisions. And this is where many people feel conflicted. Part of you may want clear answers, something direct and undeniable. But another part of you might feel hesitation. What if the truth is uncomfortable? What if it challenges the image you've held for years? What if it reveals something that others in your family chose not to confront? These are real questions, and they matter. But here's something to consider. Understanding the past is not about disrupting your peace. It's about strengthening it. When something remains hidden or unclear, it often creates quiet tension. You may not always notice it, but it can influence how you think, how you react, and how you interpret the people around you. Clarity, even when it's difficult, brings a different kind of stability. Think about the patterns in your life right now. the decisions you're facing, the situations that feel strangely familiar, even if you've never experienced them before. Could there be a connection? Could it be that you're standing at a point where a similar choice once existed for someone before you? It doesn't mean you are destined to repeat anything, but it does mean you are in a position to recognize it. And recognition is powerful, because when you can see a pattern clearly, you gain the ability to respond differently. You are no longer moving blindly. You're making conscious choices instead of reacting based on something you don't fully understand. This is where the hidden truth begins to shift from being something mysterious to something meaningful. Your grandfather's life, whatever it contained, his struggles, his decisions, even his silence, becomes part of a larger picture. Not something to fear, but something to learn from. Have you ever wondered why certain values were emphasized in your family while others were avoided? Why some behaviors were encouraged while others seemed quietly discouraged without explanation? These things don't appear out of nowhere. They are often shaped by experiences that were never fully explained, but deeply felt. And over time, they become part of the foundation you stand on, whether you realize it or not. Now you're in a unique position. You can choose to stay at the surface, accepting only what has been told, or you can go deeper, not to judge, not to criticize, but to understand. Understanding creates freedom. It allows you to separate what truly belongs to you from what was simply passed down. It gives you the ability to move forward with awareness instead of confusion, with intention instead of assumption. And maybe, just maybe, that's why this truth is surfacing now. Not earlier, when you might not have been ready to see it clearly. But now, when you have the perspective, the maturity, and the awareness to handle it with thoughtfulness. So the real question becomes this: if you were to uncover the full truth, would you use it to carry the past forward or to finally move beyond it? Because whatever comes next depends on how you choose to see it, and this is where everything comes together. Not in a dramatic revelation, not in a single moment where every question is answered, but in a quiet realization that settles within you. The kind that doesn't need noise to be powerful, because by now, you've started to see the pattern. The fragments of the past, the silence around certain truths, the subtle ways it all connects to your present. It's no longer just a question about your grandfather. It's about understanding the thread that runs through generations and recognizing where you stand within it. And here's the turning point. You are not here to carry confusion forward. You are not here to live inside unanswered questions or unspoken expectations. Whatever your grandfather experienced, whatever choices he made, whatever truths remained hidden, they belong to his time, his circumstances, his journey. But you are in a different position. You have awareness, and awareness gives you something powerful. The ability to choose differently, to respond with clarity instead of assumption, to move forward without being quietly shaped by something you never fully understood. Think about that for a moment. How many people go through life repeating patterns without ever realizing where they came from? How many continue cycles simply because no one stopped to question them? You've already stepped outside of that. By asking these questions, by reflecting, by allowing yourself to sense that there's more beneath the surface, you've already broken a certain kind of silence. And once that silence is broken internally, things begin to shift externally as well. You may not uncover every detail. Some parts of the past may remain unclear, and that's okay. Not every truth needs to be fully exposed to be understood in its impact. What matters is what you do with what you feel and what you've begun to realize. You can choose to approach your family with more understanding instead of confusion. You can observe patterns without immediately accepting them as your own. You can create space between who you are and what was simply inherited, and in doing so, you create something new. A new direction that isn't based on silence, but on awareness. Not on assumption, but on clarity. Not on carrying forward what was left unresolved, but on deciding what truly deserves to continue. So if this hidden truth is surfacing now, it's not to weigh you down, it's to give you perspective. To allow you to see your past with open eyes, your present with deeper understanding, and your future with intention. And maybe the most important realization of all is this. You are not defined by what was hidden. You are defined by what you choose to do once you begin to see it. So as you move forward, hold on to that awareness. Reflect when you need to. Ask questions when it feels right. But most importantly, recognize that whatever story came before, your story is still yours to shape. And that is where real clarity begins. If you've stayed with this reflection until now, then something inside you has already started to shift. Because this was never just about uncovering a hidden truth. It was about what happens after you become aware of it. That quiet moment when you stop looking outward for answers and begin to look inward with honesty. And here's something many people don't realize. Clarity doesn't always arrive as certainty. Sometimes it comes as a feeling, a sense that you now see things differently than you did before. The same stories, the same memories, the same people, but your understanding of them has changed. That change matters, because once your perspective shifts, your reactions begin to shift as well. You become less reactive, more thoughtful, less caught in confusion, more grounded in awareness. And slowly, without forcing anything, you begin to step into a version of yourself that is more intentional. Think about your grandfather again. Not just as a figure in your past, but as someone who lived a full, complex life. Someone who made decisions based on what he knew, what he faced, and what he believed was necessary at the time. You may never fully know every detail, and that's part of being human. We rarely get complete stories. But you don't need every detail to understand the impact. You've already seen enough to recognize that there was more beneath the surface. Enough to realize that silence can carry meaning. Enough to understand that what isn't said can sometimes shape a family just as much as what is openly spoken. And now you stand in a different place. Not at the beginning of a question, but at the beginning of a choice. Will you carry forward assumptions, or will you move forward with awareness? Will you let uncertainty create distance, or will you allow understanding to create a deeper sense of connection, both with your past and with yourself? These are quiet decisions, but they shape everything. Because the truth, once it begins to surface, doesn't demand that you react. It invites you to reflect. It gives you the space to pause, to think, and to decide what truly matters moving forward. And maybe that's the real purpose behind all of this. Not to expose something dramatic, not to disrupt your life, but to give you a clearer lens through which to see it. A lens that allows you to separate what belongs to you from what doesn't. To recognize patterns without being controlled by them. To respect the past without being defined by it. So as you leave this moment, carry that with you. You don't need to rush for answers. You don't need to force conversations before you're ready. But stay aware. Stay observant. Stay open to understanding, even when it unfolds slowly. Because sometimes the most important truths are not the ones that are loudly revealed, They are the ones that quietly change how you see everything. And once that shift happens, even in the smallest way, it becomes the beginning of something greater, something clearer, more grounded, and entirely your own.